Like it's weird to me how the world both is obsessed with my mixedness, but also wants me to talk nothing about it. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Mixed Feelings with Kira Bria. My name's Kira. Subscribe if you're new. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Kira Bria. I'm still trying to hit 10K. I'm almost there. I'm at like 9K. And then at 10K, I can do swipe ups and much more easily inform you all of anything that I am directing you towards, whether it be a podcast or a YouTube video, etc. And yeah, hello, welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm going to be telling you why I'm tired of being mixed, things that mixed people are tired of hearing, and just some stuff that's been on my mind regarding all of that, because I've seen a lot of biracial slander, and I know that's like a harsh term, but that is really what it is. And it's interesting to me to see how it's so okay to people, and it's so easy for people to invalidate someone's identity and then laugh about it like it's a joke and make fun of somebody's identity issues like it's a joke. Like, it's just very strange to me that this is okay and that people think this is okay. And whenever I try to speak up about it on TikTok, I get shit on. So I'm gonna do it here instead. Even though I might still get bad feedback, but whatever. Okay, I saw this TikTok not too long ago, and it was this girl talking about how she's tired of the phrase too white for the black kids, too black for the white kids. And she said, when are we gonna retire that tired ass phrase? And that was so annoying to me because, you know, I understand that phrase is like, you know, it's well known partly because of Drake and because, well, it's like, it's a common thing. And the thing is though, here's the thing. If you are not mixed, you don't get to say that it's overused, right? Because I think what's annoying to me is people don't realize that while that line is like, you know, very much used by a lot of different people right now, that doesn't change the fact that it's actually representative of a very valid identity issue in a lot of biracial people. It's a very common feeling. And it's very, very valid and can be intertwined with a lot of trauma and like shit that you should not be making fun of. If I'm honest, one of the biggest problems that I'm seeing is that biracial people have these identity struggles and these issues that nobody else wants to hear about. And so when these issues are said to people of other communities who don't really want to hear about them, it's very much, when are you going to retire that tired ass old phrase? Why do you keep talking about biracial problems? Why do you make being biracial your only personality trait? And the thing is, while some people do that, while some people do make it their entire personality trait, that is a fraction of us. And most biracial people are just looking for a space to speak and be heard, and they don't usually get that, right? And when I said that on TikTok, the response I got was, well, feel free to make your own club, which has no empathy, right? That has no compassion whatsoever. And I think it just bothers me how the attitude is, you don't know who you are, well, you better figure it out somewhere else. Better figure it out alone behind closed doors and not come out until you're fully sure. Or like, I don't know, but it just, there does not seem to be any compassion for the biracial experience. And while I understand like that isn't necessarily owed, I'm making I don't know about that face, because I do think you can owe people respect and compassion, but that's debatable for most of the world. But I know that I give it regardless. But that's just me. That's just me. But I just think we should not be, I don't think it's helpful to be judging someone's identity struggle so harshly. And I don't think it's helpful to be like, well, why are y'all still asking that question? It's because it hasn't been addressed. It's because the dynamics that we experience have not been addressed. And we don't have a space to address them with other people who have also experienced that. And when I say that, people yell at me. And when I say that, people say, well, feel free to make your own space then, when I'm speaking on my own TikTok page that is my own space that I've created. Anyways, but I just feel like there will never be a healthy balance, because I also see videos of biracial people saying, you know, they're Black, and then the comments going off about whether or not they're actually Black. And I don't think we'll ever come to a common ground, really. And I think one of the biggest problems is that I think most people think that the way they look at us is the way everybody looks at us. And they have no idea that we're getting told something different by everyone, right? And that is what is so frustrating to me, is because you'll have, you know, half of the Black community saying you are fully Black. The other half of the community saying you better not say that you're fully Black. And I understand both, right? I understand both. And I personally, it's interesting because being biracial, you learn that what you see yourself as is just not functional in the real world. How you look at yourself, people literally cannot conceptualize that. So you try to find the next best thing, but that doesn't fit. So then you try to find the next best thing, but people are upset with that. So then you try to find the next best thing, but people are mad at that too. And you start to realize you will never fit. You will never fit functionally in the world. The way the world works, the way the world sees race does not leave room for the ambiguity that we have, and to be ourselves in our complete and wholeness functionally in this world is impossible. And the thing is, I'm not talking about like, this is the other thing I hate about being mixed, is like people always saying, okay, what are you mixed with? And obviously that, like, a lot of people know that a lot of mixed people hate that, even though I think some of them love it, but that's not my business. Obviously I don't like that, but the reason why I don't like that, part of the reason, there's a lot of reasons actually, part of the reason why I don't like when people ask me what am I mixed with is because when I tell them I say Trini and Irish, they start to picture what that means to them, and it is never what it means to me. It is never, ever, one time, anywhere close to what it means to me and what my home life actually was and what my life actually is and who I actually, and never, ever close. Because people always ask these questions and they start to go, well, do you know how to cook Trini food? Oh, so you just were raised with the Irish side? Well, I bet lots of steak and potatoes for dinner. Hate it. I hate it. And the projection and the assumption of what they think, you know, a mosaic of a biracial person looks like is so far away from what I experienced. Do you know what I mean? Like, I grew up with my white family. They are Irish somewhere down the line. We don't use any of those traditions. I don't know what that's like. I barely have hung out with the Trini side of my family. Like, yes, I have, but was I raised there? Not at all. Did I know most of them for most of my life? Not at all. And so when I tell people what I'm mixed with, they start to create this image of me and my life that is not anywhere close to who I am or what I've done. Anywhere close. And they can't conceptualize that frustration, because I'll say that I'm tired of answering that question. And I'll say that I just, like, from a young age, I've always been like, why do you care? Why does it matter? And I know why. Because we've been taught to view race as, like, so the first thing on somebody's identity. You know what I mean? And especially, like, you'll see here in Canada versus the US, I've always found it interesting. Canada is way more obsessed with, like, the culture and the nationality than they are with, like, the race. Like, in America, they'd be like, you're mixed. You know what I mean? And that would be fine. They'd be like black and white and that's enough. But in Canada, it's like, oh, what do you mix with? Black and white. No, I mean, like, where are you from? And it's like that whole idea of like where I'm from is just, it's just so different from what, like, it just messes everybody up. That's where the disconnect happens, because they are literally visualizing me being from two places and like what that would look like as a mosaic put together. And that's just not the story. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's just not the story. And that doesn't leave room for who I really am. It only leaves room for who you want me to be. Do you know what I mean? And what you think a mixed person is, what you think a mixed person should be. And it's exhausting to never be able to live up to anybody's image of me, I think, you know, because I feel like I'm disappointing people when I'm saying, no, I don't know how to cook any of that food that you just mentioned. Does that make me less mixed? You know what I mean? And it's limiting. And when I say, you know, this world doesn't leave room for our wholeness, what I'm saying is there's not room for a biracial person to just be a person with like with other interests that don't lead with their mixedness. Like it's weird to me how the world both is obsessed with my mixedness but also wants me to talk nothing about it. That has always been weird to me. It's like if I talk about it, I'm an intention whore, but everybody always leads with questions about my mixedness. Do you understand why that's confusing? And I also think it's damaging to be, and I'm not even just talking about my page. This is literally every single interaction, or every single time I see a mixed person post about their racial identity on the internet, this always happens to them. 20 out of 10 times is like, people are fine to say, I think it's so funny. People are fine to say that if you're speaking about being mixed, you're making it your whole personality trait, and you're, you know, they act like you're taking up too much real estate on the internet when it's like on that person's own page. And yet they feel completely comfortable going on that person's page, you know, walking into their house and invalidating their identity via comment. And I'm like, isn't that strange? How can I be, you know, taking up too much of your space on my own page, but it's cool for you to come in my house and invalidate my identity? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And the thing is, I think, because the problem is, what y'all need to understand is, for so many of us, so many mixed people, we started growing up, right? Probably did not have somebody to relate to who was biracial, who like had already figured it out, meaning like an older, like a family member, an older family member, right? Like you might have siblings, but like your siblings are probably, you know, a few years younger or older than you, and they probably haven't figured it out either. So I'm saying, like, in regards to role models, like mixed people growing up, they really don't really know what's going on. A lot of us, like, we really don't know what's going on because we're probably being raised with one side of the family, or regardless, if you're being raised with one side of the family or both sides of the family, you are still not being raised by adults who look like you, is my point. Does that make sense? So you are really just, it's a crapshoot. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're just shooting in the dark. And for me growing up, I didn't really have a strong sense. I mean, I had no strong sense of racial identity, no sense of racial identity at all, really, right? And I had no sense of culture and no sense of roots and no sense of where I was from or what I was. And so, you know, you grow up and you're not even really thinking about that in a critical way until you have to, right? Until you start being put in situations that force you to, because people push things on you or people call you different things. So for me, what I'm trying to say is, I didn't even start to think about how I identified racially until someone else told me what I was racially, right? And so a lot of our first experiences of thinking about who we are do come from other people and do come from external resources, because a lot of us growing up are just like shooting in the dark. Like, we don't really know what's going on, right? And I remember like the first time, okay, well, honestly, my first interactions with race in that way are being called Black or being called the N-word by like white classmates. So obviously I was a little bit confused because I just hadn't had conversations about race, and it felt weird for my first conversations about race to be coming from my white classmates, I think. And then you start to grow up, and maybe you start to, you know, move to an area that's less predominantly white. But I would say for me, the first thing I really remember was when I moved to LA and like Black people said I was Black. And so that's when I was like, okay, I must be Black. But like literally, I want you guys to understand, I literally thought in my head, okay, I must be Black, right? Like it's very much well, they said it, so I must be. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with me, right? So I'm in LA, Black people are calling me Black. I'm like, I'm Black. And then, you know, you start to have some different interactions with race, and, you know, you do get older and you do start to have a little bit more agency over your self-identity, period. But then, like, I think the first time my identity started to get more invalidated was the internet. And like, I think the first time people started calling me white was TikTok. And people saying, why are you talking about this? You look white. You're not Black. Don't call yourself Black. You're erasing Black women. All this stuff. And so that was, I think, when I started to be like, okay, so what do you want me to do? And I think that is honestly what I'm going to say specifically the Black community does not understand, that so much of a biracial person's identity is responsive, meaning I am doing what I think you want me to do. And so when the responsive identity is wrong to someone else, it gets very frustrating and confusing and annoying, because it's like, I'm literally doing what you told me to do. And now someone else is telling me I can't do that. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people get really upset with biracial people for how they identify, thinking that we have ill intentions. And I'm just here to say, 9 times out of 10, we literally are responding directly to something someone else told us to do. And we think that we are going to be okay now. Like, I remember when I started, well, honestly, when I started identifying as Black, I thought that's what people wanted me to do. And then I saw a video, it was Kimberly Foster. Her name is For Harriet on YouTube. She was talking about Meg and Harry, that whole situation. And she called Megan a biracial Black person. And I said, okay, great. That fits. That feels right for me. Right? And I was like, I don't think anybody could be mad at this. And then when I, did identify as that, people still had a problem. And some people think I should just call myself Black. Others say you're white. Some people are just mad that I'm talking about it. Period. They don't care what I call myself. They're like, just stop talking about it. Or they're like, you're too white to be talking about Black issues. Or they use the fact that I'm mixed as a way to invalidate the points I'm making, even though they are pro-Black. So I don't see why that makes sense. And so you start to come to a place as a biracial person where you realize not a fucking soul is gonna understand what's going on in your head, what's going on in your identity, what's gone on in your life. They're looking at you through a standpoint of their experience. And I understand that, but I just wish more people could understand that the way they see me is different than the way other people see me. And so if I'm confused, it's because of everyone is split. Like, this is what I'm saying. So many biracials' identity is responsive. They are telling you what they think will be easiest for you and for them. Like, because a lot of times we just don't even want to talk about it very much. And it's like, how can I answer this question in the simplest way without making anyone upset? But I think I would like us to have more agency, and I would like us to be able to, dig inward and feel more what's right to us. And I know that some people do that. But a lot of us, I think, do struggle with that and do struggle with forming an identity out of our own agency and power and self-identification instead of a responsive identity. That being said, I do think it's often, it doesn't even seem like that's an option to choose your own. It doesn't seem like an option. Because when you do choose your own, or regardless if you choose it or not, people are still going to tell you who you are. And the thing is, for me, it's not even about, am I black or white? Like, that's not even what's so frustrating. I mean, like, yeah. But what's really annoying is that I just feel that I am never actually fully seen as just me. And I remember my mom told me that I said that when I was like super young, like 6 or 7, I think. I don't know. I don't remember what the situation was, but she told me there was some sort of situation where, like, I don't know if it was like the girls in class were calling me black or like asking me what I was or something. And I said, why do I have to be something? Why can't I just be Kira? Because it just felt like there's not an option for just Kira. Do you know what I mean? It was just always, I felt like I was putting on a hat that didn't fit. Like, and there wasn't an option for like my hat. That was like something I already knew, and that was actually me. Because the thing is, I am not just two cultures put together. I am actually like a whole and complete person with my own full experience. It's not halved in the way people think. I just feel that we cannot be invalidating biracial people's experience and calling it, comedy. Like, I just think that is such a fundamental struggle to our experience, just for people to be like, like, or retired that tired ass comment. Here's what I understand and know. I understand biracial people have much more privilege than monoracial black people. I know that. And I think it's one of those things that's like the idea of punching up, which is like, I get it, but I just think biracial people's identity is like their fundamental struggle a lot of times. And for that to be free reign for people to make fun of is so messed up to me. Like, that's so messed up to me. And when I say that, I'm making it a personality trait, and people don't see what's wrong with that. We will never be able to talk about it. And so it will never go away if it stays unaddressed. That's the whole reason why people keep saying the comment, is because they still feel it and they haven't been able to talk about it, and they don't have a community of biracial people to talk about it. And it's not because we just haven't started one and, I should just go start one. I don't know enough biracial people to start a club. It's like a numbers thing. Like, do people get that? I don't think they get that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like, let me snap my fingers and have a club for biracial people. People really don't understand that Obama identifies as black. People really don't understand that the first black president of the United States identified as black. Like, they don't make the connection that, hey, it might be hard to like find a community of mixed people and like feel valid in your mixed identity. And like, it's like, if I could just start a club, don't you think Obama would have done it? Like, people are like, well, why don't you just start a club? Stop talking about it on TikTok. You're taking up too much real estate on the internet. This is my page. I don't understand. Like, what else do you want me to do? I'm talking about my issues on my own page. This is my house. And if it was easy to create a secluded biracial community where we could, speak just to each other about our issues and no one else could see it, don't you think the first black president of the United States would have done that? Or am I just lazy and not doing enough, apparently? Like, do you see how ridiculous it is? Do you see how much people expect from, like, I don't know what, I've done my best. I'm doing my best. And I do want to create those spaces in the future, but I'm 23 years old and I could not create an infrastructure for biracial people to speak with the snap of my fingers. And I think if it was that easy, Obama would have done that already. Biracial people need to validate their own identity and decide for themselves who they are. And even if you decide for yourself and like that is maybe even different than what you tell other people, I think that's fine. Because this is what I'm saying, your full and complete identity as a biracial person functionally does not work in this world. Functionally, the world is not set up to deal with that, to deal with the ambiguity. You know, people want boxes. People want one box to check. They say black or white. And it's like, you really do just have to realize that people are literally never going to agree on your identity. And I think I personally just wish that other people could know that so they could see how ridiculous they sound when they are singing one choir bell and think it's the only bell. I'm like, bitch, there's 27 other bells ringing next door. Do you hear that? Do you hear everybody else saying the opposite thing as you? No, because you're too loud and you can't hear other people speak. Anyway, it's too much to ask other people to understand that. And so I have just come to the conclusion that I will understand that my identity will be invalidated for my entire life. For my entire life. And there will not be a thing I can do about it. There will not be a thing I can do about it. And so I have to be internally secure with it and understand that the outside is projecting their own experience, projecting what they think race is, projecting. Everybody projects all the time. You know, it's human. But not to let that affect me so much, or not to let it affect your identity so much. And I know it's really hard. And it's difficult because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be seen. And you probably never will be. In the way that you really are, and in the way that you really want to be by people who do not have that experience, I don't think you will be most of the time. And that's why I'm saying, like, people like to, okay, let's address this. So, and I kind of talked about this before, but not in the same way. You know, the whole erasure piece, I completely understand. I completely understand where it's coming from, in the sense that monoracial black women see biracial black women in their roles in media, in film. And I think what I want people to understand is that if biracial people are being put into monoracial black roles, that means that they don't have their own role. And nobody ever cares about that part. You know what I mean? And I understand why, because we are the ones with privilege. We are the ones with privilege. And so we don't get to say that, but I do want to say that, because the issue is not, okay, there is a problem with this, but it is not the issue, is what I'm trying to say. The issue is not that biracial people are being put into monoracial people's slots. The issue is biracial doesn't have its own slot, and people are not looking at race in the way that it deserves to be looked at, right? Because if biracial people had their own spot, they could not mistakenly be put in someone else's, because we would have a home, we would have a story. You know what I mean? But instead, you consistently see biracial people in black roles. And do you want to know something? We don't want that. I think that's what people think we want. And I want to let people know I don't want that. That doesn't help me. And that is not a representation of my experience. I'm watching a mixed girl go through black struggles. I'm still not seeing my struggles. Do people get that? I am not satisfied with Amandla playing every black role, or Zendaya playing every, like, I'm not satisfied with that. Ginny and Georgia was the first time I watched something and I was like, oh, this is what people feel like when they see their experience on TV. The first time. Yes, I've seen people who look like me on TV before. I have never related to them. And so I am not satisfied with what is going on. I am not satisfied with light-skinned women being the only black actresses. I want there to be dark-skinned black actresses playing roles that represent their experience, and mixed people in mixed roles that represent their experience. Also, I just think people need to understand that these are usually white casting directors who really literally don't understand race at all. Like, when I tell you, when I was growing up at a dance studio and I wanted to get an agent, the agent said, "Oh, you're gonna be perfect because you're black in Canada." That's what I was said. That's what was said to me. So please understand that this is not like Zendaya plotting to, it's like, this is something that is higher up, right? And at the end of the day, does involve money and white people and their money. And obviously there's corruption surrounding that. And I think that having more black people in like the boardrooms and the higher up positions is what would really make the change that we want to see here. Because the erasure of black women is a problem. However, I do not think it is at the hands of mixed people. Do you know what I mean? And that is sort of like the narrative, is that mixed people are erasing black people. And I'm like, that would require mixed people to exist. Like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, we don't even exist. We don't even have our own spot. That's why we can so easily be put into other people's spot. Give us a spot. Give us our own spot with our own story and our own experience. And again, that is not the black community's responsibility to give to us either. That is, again, the white people with money at the top who do the casting. Do you think it's a black woman on casting? Do you think it's a mixed woman on casting? It's not. It's not. It's probably a white dude who's never talked to a black girl in his life. Like, a lot of these issues are obviously systemic, but I think that I'm gonna go ahead and say that I do think, biracial visibility is linked to dark-skin visibility, not in the sense of, and I don't mean visibility in the sense of you're seeing our face, but you're seeing our experience authentically, right? Because if you would be seeing an authentic biracial experience, that leaves a lot more space on the spectrum. You know what I mean? And same thing if you're seeing an authentic dark-skinned woman's experience, that is leaving more space on the spectrum for the light skin and the biracial. And it's like, there needs to be more space. There should not be I've also highlighted this before, but it's interesting how this is only really this much of an issue for women, which already tells you that it's systemic and corruption. You know what I mean? Because if it's more intense for women, then you know it's systemic, because we're already seeing the intersections hurt more. So like black men, it's not the same. You'll see a lot more dark-skinned black men on screen, especially portrayed in like an attractive way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'll see that a lot more because there's more space for them. There's more space for them in a way that there isn't the same for us. And so if we had that space, I think a lot of our issues would be resolved. Also, some people that are coming to mind right now that I do want to make an example of is J. Cole. I don't think anyone's ever invalidated J. Cole's blackness. And I know this actually because I read his interview where he said no one's really ever invalidated his blackness. People don't question him because he's a man and he speaks on black issues, so nobody's like questioning him at all. He is very, very light. He's about my color. Do you know what I'm saying? But no one is going to call him white on the internet because he is a man. And so we do need to recognize that it is possible for other people to have space to identify however they want, for men to have space and identify however they want in a way that biracial women do not get that same grace. So I do think that is noteworthy. And when I brought that up again on TikTok, people are just like, no, J. Cole looks more black. It's his hair. And I understand that he does have, his hair does look black, but like I don't think that is not the reason why his identity has not been invalidated, and most biracial women's have. Tons of biracial women have very black looking hair. Like, whatever. I understand misogyny affects us at every single corner that we turn, but I'm tired still. I guess I'm just jealous. I guess I'm just jealous of J. Cole at the end of the day. That's really what this is all about. I love J. Cole. I do. Drake, on the other hand, you can tell he has experienced more invalidation, but it's interesting how for him, it's intertwined with the idea of him being soft in his lyrics. Like if you look at the content of J. Cole's music versus Drake's music, people make fun of Drake a lot for being a soft boy. But the thing is, they kind of just, you know, make fun of his light-skinnedness. They're not necessarily like invalidating his identity. It's more like, oh, he's so light-skinned, nah. You know what I mean? Whereas J. Cole doesn't get like that like typical light skin association in the same way because he's like hard. Do you know what I mean? And I think all of these things are stupid. I think associating someone's race with their softness or hardness is stupid. And I think people don't understand all of the things that they're perpetuating when they do that. But I think it's dumb. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say about this topic. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a 5-star rating if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make sure to share this with your friends, whether you're watching or listening. It really, really helps me out. If you share my content, it'll help it, you know, get bumped up, and it'll really help me out. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate all of you for your time. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Okay, bye.